Hello, everybody. I am joined today by Nicole Chong, who is a Central Regional Manager at AUG Services. Hello, welcome to KTJ again.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
and thank you for having us again too.
You're most welcome.
Yep.
So, some of you will know we've had previous interviews with Nicole, and that's because AUG is our preferred partner for applications to Australia. So, anybody who wants to go to Australia, please watch this video and also then talk to AUG and her team there. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about our IGCSE students.
Yep.
So they've just gone through their trials, they've got their predicted grades, they're thinking about what they're going to do after IGCSEs. So what are the options in Australia for them?
Option after IGCSE, student can actually opt to do a foundation studies in Australia. So in Australia, most of the university will have their own pathway. So commonly is foundation studies, and there are also diplomas. For example, they have a 2 years diploma that covers the foundation equivalent and a first year of study. But most of the university, they have their own foundation studies.
Okay. Yep. Is there a big difference between these programs in the different universities?
Sort of, because foundation is a syllabus that's set up by a university. So students normally choose a foundation based on the first preference of university they want to go to. So for instance, for example, they want to go to University of Melbourne, then they would choose to do the University of Melbourne foundation study at Trinity College.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of these foundation programs are leading to specific universities.
Correct.
Okay. And are they in specific subjects or are they very broad?
It depends on the individual foundation studies. So for example, some foundation study, they do have a specific stream. For example, they have a commerce stream, they have an engineering stream, they have a life science stream. But some of the foundation study, they are choosing the core subject and the elective that as long as they did the prerequisite, they can get into the degree they want.
Okay, so some are just in general streams and some of them are quite specific. What about if the student doesn't know where they want to go? They've got a really good range of IGCSEs in humanities and science, maths, and English, but they don't know which stream they're going to go into yet. What do you have courses for those?
Yes. So normally a foundation is packaged with offer letter in a degree. Okay. So literally student will need to have a little bit of idea what they want to do in degree. However, if a student have no idea what they want to do in degree, there are also option to do a standalone foundation, whereby after the foundation, then they can choose the university they want to do. For example, like Canning College, they offer a Western Australia foundation program whereby they are not packaged to any university. So upon completion, they can apply to any university, but there are always pros and cons. So if they're going for a standalone foundation, then they will need to apply a second visa for their degree later. Yeah.
All right. So what are the entry requirements? Do they differ between these different types of courses?
Correct. Basically, if they want to go to the top ranking university, for example, like the Group of 8 University, then the entry requirement will be slightly higher. Most of the foundation colleges are looking at B average and above for a standard foundation entry. Whereas if the student is opt to go to the non-Group of 8 University, most of the time credit average should be more sufficient.
Okay, so C should be enough. So somewhere between B's and C's.
Yep.
And can they apply with their predicted grades?
Yep. So most of the foundation, they can accept predicted or forecast IGCSE to go into a foundation study. But just bear in mind, the IGCSE subject is very important. For example, some of the foundation, they will need first language English. They will need additional math to get into the foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you do if you had second language English?
If the student have a second language English, it depends on the provider. So some colleges, they have their own English test whereby the student can sit for the test, and some colleges may require students to sit for additional English proficiency test.
Like an IELTS?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And roughly if they have to do IELTS, what kind of band?
For foundation, normally it's 5.5 and above. Yeah, correct.
So that should be doable for many.
Yes. correct.
So obviously we're talking about the IGCSE students. They're under 18.
Yeah.
As a mom, I'm concerned what's going to happen over there. Who's going to look after them? What's the pastoral role?
Okay. So in Australia, basically under 18, the student have to have welfare arrangement in place, and there are 3 options the student can choose. So option number 1 will be one of the parents probably they will need to apply for a student guardian visa to go to accompany the student to go to Australia. So in this case, one of the parents have to apply for student guardian visa, and the student will apply for student visa. And the parents have to be there with the student until the student turns 18. Okay, and option number 2 is if a student have a relative in Australia, for example, the brothers or the siblings study in Australia, or the siblings are holding visas that are valid until the student turn 18, then their aunt, uncle is there. Actually, they can also nominate the relative
Sorry, the relative has to be over 18.
The relative have to be 21 years old and above, and they need to have a valid visa until the student turn 18. Yeah. Option number 3. So let's say the parents does not intend to go together. They do not have any relative in Australia. The colleges or the provider normally will have an under 18 approved accommodation and also guardianship. So we just have to arrange the student to stay in an under 18 approved accommodation and engage a guardianship company to take care of the student welfare.
So would you help the students find that guardian?
Yeah.
Okay.
So regardless of which option the student is going to take, AUG is going to assist with each step and provide with a document checklist what are the things that they need to prepare for it. Yeah.
Okay. So if it's the first option, do you help with the parent visa?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. All right. So that's for the IGCSE students.
Yep.
So we also have next week our sixth formers are doing their trials. What options are there post A level in Australia?
So after A level, students can opt to do a bachelor degree in Australia. So all the Australian university will accept A level students as long as they meet number 1 the entry requirement, number 2 the prerequisite, and number 3 English requirement. Yeah. Okay. So they can opt to choose any of the 42 university in Australia. Yeah.
Okay. And so when you say A-level requirement, what kind of grades are you talking about?
It quite varied, depends on the choices of university as well as the courses. Okay. So for example, if they intend to go to a group of 8 university, then of course they would need a slightly better grades. And if they are aiming for quota program, for example, like medicine, dentistry, veterinary science, then they would need very good result, plus some aptitude tests as well as interview.
Okay, so when you say very good, roughly, because you have a system with points, right?
Yes.
So your A-level grade
Correct.
To points.
Correct. So A is equal to 5 points, B equal to 4, C is equal to 3, and so on and so forth. So just take a typical example. If let's say the student wanted to do a bachelor of commerce in University of Melbourne, probably they would need a ABB. Then if they wanted to do the same course in UNSW, they need 13 points, and probably in UCIT they need 14 points or 15 points. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about the group of 8.
Yep.
Do you want to explain what they are? Because they seem to be quite important.
Yep. So group of 8 is basically, they are a group of research intensive university, consists of 8 of the member. So that includes the University of Adelaide, Australian National University, Monash University, the University of Melbourne, the University of Queensland, University of Western Australia, University of New South Wales, and the University of Sydney. So 8 of them are the group of research intensive university, and all 8 of them are currently ranked top 100 in the world, and 6 of them are top 50.
Yes, according to the QS ranking.
Correct.
I think according to QS, Melbourne is the highest.
Yes, Melbourne is the highest at the moment. Yeah, followed by UNSW and University of Sydney. Correct.
Okay. And all of those group of 8 offer the same courses. So, for example, you were talking about medicine. You need to do an additional test. Do they all offer things like medicine? They all offer engineering?
Engineering, yes, pretty much everyone, they do have engineering courses, but not everyone have offered the similar courses. For example, University of Melbourne does not offer pharmacy. And for medicine, among the group of it, for undergraduate entry, there are Monash University, there are UNSW, but of course, I mean, there are also limited places for the package offer for UWA and Sydney, but the rest, there are some of them that offer a graduate entry. So each university, actually, the course offering are slightly different.
Okay. And so what's the application process? We talked about some have admissions tests, but most don't have admissions tests, and most don't have interviews.
Yeah.
What's the process for most of the courses?
Application to Australia is pretty direct. So they just have to complete an application form. They need to have their AS results, or if they have completed A Level, then A Level results too. And depends on university. Some university, for example, like Melbourne Uni, they may need IELTS. Yeah, but all other universities, probably if they complete the A Level, they may not need IELTS. And last but not least, they need a colour scan passport. So compared to the UK university, we do not need personal statement, we do not need reference letter.
Wow,
yeah.
That's a lot easier. So the application form is per university?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So they get the application form from the university, they just need their scanned passport, AS grades, and presumably predicted A2 grades.
If they have a predicted A2 grade, they can submit together as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens if it's 3 Bs, say that I mean, they need 3 Bs according to the points, and then they end up with BBC or BCC? What happens then?
Well, Australia has quite a transparent entry system, so the student must meet the entry requirement. If the student missed by 1 point, they wouldn't get the offer. However, most of the university, they may have a pathway program. For example, let's say, I mean, they need 3 Bs to get into a Bachelor of Commerce. If they miss by 1 or 2 points, probably they can consider a Diploma of Commerce that offered by a pathway provider. And this diploma program is actually equivalent to degree first year. So for instance, if a student completed the first Diploma of Commerce, they will get into year 2 in that particular university. Yeah.
Okay. So I know you've got 2 intakes.
Yep.
And this is the reason why many of our students post A Level apply with actual grades. Do you have the 2 intakes for the foundations, diplomas, and also the undergraduate?
Foundation normally have slightly more intake, because for foundation they have standard foundation, they have intensive foundation, they could have a extended foundation too, depends on the entry requirement. So normally for a foundation, standard foundation, they will have 2 intakes, and the same goes to the rest, and there are certain pathway they will have 3 intakes. Normally it's February, June or October, but of course, I mean, if you're talking about a standard foundation, it depends on individual provider. It could be starting in January, it could be starting in February, it could start in April too. Yeah.
Okay. So foundation's a little bit more complicated. You've got to do your research. But for the undergraduate courses, there are 2 intakes. Do you want to explain the difference between those 2?
Sure. So for undergraduate, it's normally February or July. That's our major intake. But the key intake is normally February. So not all the courses will have a July intake. For example, if a student is going for a quarter program, for instance, like health sciences, medicine, dentistry, web science, educations, or probably some of the university for law, they only have a February intake. Whereas, I mean, if they're going for like business program, engineering program, sciences, then they will have a July intake.
So if you were going for July intake, you're going on your predicted grades. And if you're going for the February, our students, because again, the results in August could go with their actual grades. And that's good because the system is so transparent. You know you're either in or you're not in. It removes that uncertainty.
Correct.
And so I think if you're going for the July intake, the problem is many of our students don't finish their exams till mid-June. So they're going to be pretty exhausted. Could they actually hit that July intake? Do they have enough time to do the visa, for example?
Yes, because some of the university would able to get the student to accept a conditional offer based on forecast result, so they can start their visa process a little bit early. But of course, with a conditional offer, the student need to be very confident they are going to meet the entry requirement. Yeah, correct.
So they could start their visa process before they do their
and
exams. It's
correct. And even some of the university could issue an unconditional offer based on forecast too. Yeah.
So if their predicted grades, I guess if their AS would be very good, their predicted grades are very high. Okay, that's interesting. So let's talk about the big thing,
Yeah.
the cost. Okay.
Okay.
Is there a big difference in cost between those group of 8 and the
Yeah.
other universities?
Yep, correct. So let's take undergraduate as an example. At the moment, the undergraduate fee for a group of 8 university is between 45,000 Aussie dollar to 55,000 Aussie dollar a year. So if you're going for non-group of 8, it's normally around 30,000 to 40,000 Aussie at the moment. Yeah, so there are 6 to 10,000 different, depends on choice of university, and that is for non-clinical program. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
So, is there a difference between sort of engineering STEM ones? Obviously, the clinical is very expensive, but difference between the engineering and, say, a humanities?
For a humanity courses, engineering courses normally is a few $1,000 different. It wasn't a huge difference, and normally a choice of university will have a bigger difference. Yeah.
Really interesting to know that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little bit different to the UK, I guess. And what about the cost of living? Now, you do have lots of the world's most livable cities.
Yep.
Usually it's Melbourne and Adelaide.
Yep. In 2024, it's Melbourne and Sydney. We are top 10 in the world for the most livable city in the world. Yeah. So
do they come at a price?
Oh yeah. However, I mean, at the moment, I mean, our annual living cost, as suggested by the government, is 29,710 Aussie dollar a year. So students will have to prepare that, I mean, for a visa purpose as well.
So,
yeah.
Okay, and that's across the country. Is it more in Melbourne and Sydney than it is?
Good question. So basically, I mean, this 29,710 was suggested by the government, which is a guideline for students that wanted to study in Australia. However, if they're going to a big city, major city like Sydney and Melbourne, they would need to prepare a little bit more because the accommodation in Melbourne and Sydney are more expensive compared to other cities. So for instance, now, I mean, a rooms in Melbourne, a single room in Melbourne could cost more than $350 per week minimum, and a room in Sydney is easily above 400 Aussie dollars a week. Yeah.
Okay, so that's another big difference between those universities. Okay, something to bear in mind. And so obviously with these fees and this cost of living, are there opportunities for scholarships? Yes,
there are plenty of scholarship opportunity in Australia. So there are a variety of scholarship. For example, it can range from percentage, 100%, 50%, 25%, 20%, and it can range from dollar. For example, it can be $12,000 per year, $10,000 per year, or I mean $5,000 a year, and so on and so forth. And in Australia, the scholarship requirement most of the time are just academic merit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that scholarship, is it just off the fees, or does it include some sort of bursary for living expenses?
Unfortunately, not for living expenses. Is most of the time is off the tuition fee. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does it matter which country you come from when you apply for those scholarships?
It is depends on the individual university, because certain scholarship they are, for example, catered for certain nationality. Yeah.
Is it ever Malaysians?
Some they are only for Malaysian or Southeast Asia countries. Some actually they're open for worldwide. Yeah.
Okay. So roughly, how many of your students are able to get scholarships? Because I know they're there, but how many of them there?
It's varied, depends year on year. So this year is, I would say last 2024, and this intake is one of our really happy year, because last year we have 3 students that gotten a full scholarship from University of Sydney. We recently got another student that gotten a full scholarship from UTS, going for February intake, and another student gotten a full scholarship plus living expenses to ANU for PhD. Yeah.
Wow, that's a big PhD too. That's amazing. All right. So the next question really is about the extenuating circumstances that you have. So you were saying that the scholarships are just really based on grades.
Yeah.
Certainly in other countries, they're always sort of thinking, where has that student come from and where have they got to? And some obviously have more difficult journeys. Is that ever a factor in scholarship applications or in offers from universities?
Not really. There are some universities could have a special scholarship for really cater this group of students, but it wasn't very common. Yeah, but for entry requirement, unfortunately, it's really just depends on the grades.
Just grades.
Yeah.
Okay. So pros and cons of that transparency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier, but then the plus side is you're not here in the context of the journey that student's had. Okay,
Correct.
That's a very different way of doing it. Okay. So overall, we've talked about IGCSE, we've talked about undergraduate, post A Level students. Why should families and students be considering Australia as a whole for any of these pathways compared to Malaysia or UK or Australia or the US?
Okay, so there are multiple factors can take into consideration. So number one, of course, for Malaysian students, at the moment, Australia are still number one choice for Malaysian students studying further study overseas. At the moment, we have about 15,000 Malaysian students studying in Australia right now. And of course, proximity compared to the Western country like UK and US, Australia is just 5 to 8 hours away, which is, wow, over the weekend probably you can come back, right? Yeah, then other than that, of course, I mean, we only have 42 universities, and out of the 42 university, 9 of the university are ranked top 100 in the world. That's more than 25% of the university are top 100 at the moment. And Australia has been very famous for their academic excellence, and of course, we are a very multicultural country, whereby, I mean, for example, like Muslim students, they go to Australia, there's no issue to look for halal food, and it's very welcoming. And on top of that, a student with a student visa can work up to 48 hours per fortnight. And you know, now Australia probably have one of the highest wages in the world, which is $24.10 per hour right now. Yes, and last but not least, well, there are also opportunity to live and work in Australia after graduates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's possible for students to work whilst they're studying to supplement their income.
Correct.
And then when they finish, are they guaranteed a work visa? Or?
Okay, so in Australia, actually, we have temporary graduate visa, subclass 485. So for graduates in Australia, they can apply the post-higher education stream under this 485 visa. So with this visa, as long as the student has studied minimum 2 years in Australia for bachelor degree and above, they can apply for a 2 years post-study work visa in Australia. And if they're going to regional city, means not Melbourne, not Sydney, not Brisbane, they can get additional year 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Okay, so minimum 2 and you might be able to get more.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and so do many Malaysians stay on when they're finished?
Yes, many wanted to have a try to the working environment in Australia. So after they complete the course, they would want to apply for the post higher education work visa. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so any last words about why Australia?
Well, I think over the years, I mean, Australia has been one of the top options for Malaysian students studying overseas, and the quality of education, I mean, are explained, I mean, via either the ranking system or the number of alumni we have in Malaysia. So I think it definitely is a good choice if you're considering to further study overseas. Yeah.
Okay, great. We also have a fair, an AUG fair coming up. I believe that's on the 28th.
Yep. So bring along 8 universities to come to this school to meet up with the students. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So students, you'll be very welcome to come to that. You'll be encouraged to come and to meet them. So the 8 that are coming are the main 8 that we were just talking about earlier.
Correct.
Fantastic. So they're the ones that most of our students are interested in. Okay. If they've still got questions or they want to talk to you, how do they find AUG?
Well, they can contact us via multiple channels. For example, they can come to our office, they can meet us at Zoom, they can contact us via WhatsApp or even reach us by a phone call. So the next slide, you will see our contact details.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say you're always really quick at replying to any questions that we have. So it's great. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in, and I will see you when we do the fair as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us too.
Okay, most welcome. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.